Well, here's your weekly Pac-2 update. Unfortunately, this one not as good for Oregon State and Washington State as the one that we had last month. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, I talk college football, college basketball, and conference realignment. You get it with a Big 12 slant here. Please consider subscribing if you have not. And like the video, comment on the video. You can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 as well. Any way that you can support either of those three is much, much, much appreciated. Here's what we have from Jon Wilner today. Unfortunately, after getting the preliminary injunction recently for Washington State and Oregon State to take control of the Pac-12, that has now changed. And it has changed because the Washington Supreme Court on Tuesday granted an emergency stay in the Pac-12's ongoing legal fight. It further delays attempts by Wazoo and Oregon State to take control of the conference's governing board. So that ruling was issued by the Supreme Court's commissioner and not the court justices. As a result, Washington State and Oregon State plan to appeal directly to the judges and request that they remove the stay to allow a critical preliminary injunction to take effect. That injunction, granted last month by a lower court, gave Washington State and Oregon State control of the Pac-12 board, and most importantly, the financial assets that are vital to the schools left behind in the realignment game. Court commissioner's ruling also set December 12th as the deadline for all motions in the case, and at that point or soon thereafter, the Supreme Court judges will decide whether to take the case for review or send it to an appellate court. In other words, you're going to get a barrage of motions and stays before the plaintiffs and the defendants even know if the high court will consider overturning that preliminary injunction. So this is just temporary for now, that the preliminary injunction has been stopped as far as I'm understanding it here. And obviously I have no legal background, so I'm a little bit out over my skis as far as that goes. Both sides released statements here. As you might imagine, the defendants, which are the 10 schools, they were happy and said, "We are pleased the Washington Supreme Court has put on hold the preliminary injunction. The decision effectively ensures that all 12 current members will have an equal voice in determining how the revenue our schools earn this year is distributed." That's the crux of the issue. If you're new to this, a lot of this is about money. The Pac-2, the two schools, were worried that the 10 could take all the money and just run off with it and do whatever they want if they still have voting power on the board. The Pac-2 would like to get the money. The preliminary injunction that they were granted, they got control of everything, and they had control of the money, but they had to also be reasonable in divvying some of it up. So they may have just taken 5 or 10 mil apiece per team off of that and still given them a decent chunk of the money. The combined earnings of the 12 schools should not be unilaterally governed by just 2 institutions while we all remain members of the conference. Okay, that's the stance of the 10. They're saying 2 schools shouldn't be in control with this. We were here for this year. We're earning this money because we are here. The other side would be, the counter argument would be, yeah, you're also leaving Oregon State and Washington State financially screwed for a long time. Probably fair if they get a little extra money out of this whole deal. And most importantly, just don't let you have voting power to do whatever it is that you want to the conference on the way out. Here's what the Cougars and Beavers said in their statement today. "We are disappointed in the Washington Supreme Court decision to temporarily allow the departing schools to have veto power over Pac-12 board matters. The lawsuit is still pending, and this motion was for temporary relief pending appeal. OSU and WSU will be seeking court review of the commissioner's decision." Here's a good primer from Jon Wilner if you haven't been following all of this. He says, here's what's happened. In September, WSU and OSU took the conference to court and sought a preliminary injunction. The presiding judge imposed a temporary restraining order that brought Pac-12 board business to a halt. On November 14th, he signed the preliminary injunction that declared Washington State and Oregon State the sole members of the board. The next day, Washington filed an emergency motion with the state Supreme Court to stay the preliminary injunction. Now, that ruling has allowed the stay to remain in place unless the plaintiff's pending request for judges to intervene is granted. What happens at that point is anyone's guess. Beyond, basically saying what happens beyond December 12th is anyone's guess, is what Jon Wilner says. Court could side with the defendants and take the case for review, or it could rule in favor of the plaintiffs, decline the review, and send the case to an appellate court. That's your update in the courtroom. Not good, at least temporarily, for Oregon State and Washington State in their fight, which I very, very, very much support here in the position that they are in. Now, some good news. I'll leave you on a high note here, and that is that a scheduling alliance has almost totally come together for Oregon State and Washington State with the Mountain West, which will be paramount to just having some semblance of a football season. next year, and Oregon State already has taken a tough blow with losing Jonathan Smith. I'm just happy that something seems to be coming together there for them. This is from Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports. Oregon State, Washington State, and the Mountain West are in the final stages of striking a football scheduling agreement for 2024 that includes a lucrative financial package for the Mountain West schools. The remaining two members of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West are finalizing the long-talked-about partnership with an announcement planned in the coming days. It will include about $14 million paid to the Mountain West. The alliance is built around what's termed a 7+1 format, where Mountain West teams play 7 conference games, not 8, plus 1 game at either Washington State or Oregon State, against Washington State or Oregon State. There is an option to extend the deal to the 2025 season as well. The 2 Pac-12 members will not be eligible for the Mountain West Championship game and will compete as quasi-independents under the Pac-12 banner. Mountain West schools that have previously scheduled non-cons against those two will play both Washington State and Oregon State. Well, there's not expected to be a contractual requirement for a long-term merger between the two entities. There is an intent and understanding of the full-time membership for OSU and WSU in the Mountain West, or a merger. Now, my only hesitation there is that sounds a little alliance-y, right? Where it was all the talk with the alliance was, we don't need any signed contracts. We're gentlemen here. Kevin Warren's fine. He's totally not going to destroy our conference, right? We'll just write it on the back of a napkin and be okay. We know how that worked out with the alliance. Hopefully that's not the case here. I don't think they're in nearly as much jeopardy. I had been wondering about the broadcasting rights, and here's the answer for that. Mountain West home games will be televised in regular fashion by their TV partners, Fox and CBS Sports Network. The league will keep the additional media rights revenue from those games to be distributed across the conference. Oregon State and Washington State are likely to negotiate separate broadcasting agreements with those networks and potentially others to televise their home games. The Pac-12's TV deal with ESPN and Fox ends after this academic year. No other sports. For now, the scheduling alliance is football only. The two entities continue to explore a similar scheduling agreement for men's and women's basketball, though an agreement is likely weeks away. Oregon State and Wazoo are in discussions with other leagues to create affiliate memberships for their other sports. The football scheduling alliance solidifies the immediate future for the Beavers and Cougars at a precarious time. The transfer portal opens in college football this week. Oregon State already lost its coach, Jonathan Smith, who left for Michigan State. And I do feel terrible for Oregon State on that front, and that is as much a sign of the times as anything and just a product of conference realignment. Jonathan Smith, Oregon State guy, played there, has been there, enjoyed a lot of success, but he had to be looking at this like, bro, I don't even know who we're going to play next year. I don't know if we have a schedule. I don't know if we have money. I don't know if we have a board seat, like how all this, I mean, I guess they technically have a board seat, but I don't know if we have control over this league that we're still in. And the Big Ten is going to be able to pay a lot more and offer a lot more money. I mean, we saw what Mel Tucker was getting paid and everything that Michigan State has had to do throughout the entirety of the Mel Tucker era, finance-wise. Like, they will certainly be able to give him a nice payday. But it sucks because that is so realignment-driven. If the Pac-12 are staying together, that may very well not have happened. So I feel for Oregon State and Washington State. Glad to see they at least seem to be on the right track with a scheduling agreement to have some semblance of a 2024 football season. And I wish them nothing but the best. And I hope that they will start getting more wins in the courtroom over the departing 10. All right. Again, subscribe if you have not. This channel, college football, college basketball, conference realignment, all week, every week. Live shows Wednesdays and Sundays. They are a blast. If you could like the video on your way out the door, I would appreciate that. Leave a comment in the comment section. Love me, hate me, agree, disagree. All of that really helps, and you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4. Take care. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.